Okay, so this is going to be my short assignment number 4. I'm going to be answering, is it better to have more fluid gender roles? And I'm going to say yes. The movies we watched, Raging Bull, Knocked Up, and Mr. Mom, all give pretty good examples of, how when roles are swapped, it can be tough. Um, Raging Bull was a very in your face um, way of showing you how that can be a good or bad thing. And then Mr. Mom was a way to show how a man put in a woman's position could never survive, and it was a very comical way of looking at it. And Knocked Up is a comical way of dealing with a bad situation, and I believe there that both those roles, from the male and the female perspective, um, were really, I want to say, really easy to see there in a way, because that situation happens all the time. But I do believe that having a more fluid role based on what is the norm now actually would be a good thing. The idea of, Mr. Mom, how the husband loses his job and the wife has to go to work. That happened to me in my own family. So my dad raised me for a couple years before my dad could find me or find himself another job. Um, and I know that happened to a couple other people in the class, and it's happening to people all the time. There's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home dad right now. It's a common thing. I see it all the time. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think any less of people who do that. I think it's good that women can get out into the workplace and take on men's roles. I think that's great. I mean, yeah, gender doesn't really, should not at least, discriminate on what your role at home is to your kids, your parents. It doesn't matter who makes more money. I mean, I know right off the bat my girlfriend will probably make more money than I ever will, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being a stay-at-home dad. I can cook, I can clean, I can do everything fine. So I don't see a problem with that. Knocked Up, I think, puts into a perspective of that situation actually happening. I'm sure it has happened many, many times. I'm sure it happens a couple times a day. And what that shows is how he went from this person of, I'm not ready to be a parent, don't really want to he now has to be, it's got to be serious. And she's got a good paying job. She doesn't want to leave it. She doesn't want people to think less of her for it. She tries to hide it. And I think there, almost the gender roles being swapped in a way, made it tough, because that, for her, I mean, that's obviously a lot more physical pressure on her, but that job of her for being a news person for Entertainment, I mean, yeah, I would probably be scared too, but she did what she has to do, and he went from being just a bum, just hanging out with friends doing guy things, to he's got to be serious now. So I think having gender roles being more fluid is definitely a good thing. I would definitely say that just because you stay at home or you make less money than the other person, that shouldn't mean anything. However, I do recognize that in from at least from a man's perspective, you still have the notion of being the breadwinner. You have to be the guy who supports everybody, not the other way around. And if you don't, or your wife supports you, you're a bum. I understand that. However, I don't believe that makes you any less of a person. You're still caring for somebody. You're still taking care of a family. It's just not monetarily. You're doing the other part of that. Because if you're both working, nobody's taking care of the home front. And if you're both working on the home front, nobody's taking care of the monetarily front. So I think having a fluid gender role swapped between, that happens all the time. And people People live through it, and all of these movies have their own perspective. Like I said, Raging Bull's a very in-your-face type movie. You know, Mr. Mom's got a comical approach to how a man could never apparently do a woman's job, even though I can pretty much tell you that I can probably do everything better than my girlfriend can right now. So I can take care of a house probably a lot better. And Knocked Up is just puts you in a situation where you have to become a better a better person for what you have coming on what you have a child coming on the way. So you have to be more fluid. You can't just be what you want to be. He can't just be like hanging around with his buddies all the time doing stupid stuff. You know, and she now has a kid, so she can't be so serious anymore. She's got somebody else to look after. So I definitely think having a more fluid gender role makes for a better society. Now, even though our stereotypes of being men or women will probably always still be there, I think that my generation is okay with having a stay-at-home dad and a working mom. I think that's okay because I lived through it for a while. I know a lot of other people do too. So I don't believe that that's going to hold anybody back. So, yeah, gender roles definitely more fluid, definitely makes for a better society as a more whole, well rounded group of people.